Hi there, I'm Magnus, co-founder of the game studio Lava Potion. In this dev diary I will tell you how the art style of our classic adventure strategy game Songs of Conquest came to be. Basically how we found ourselves all the way from this pretty boring looking prototype to this modern 2.5D take on pixel art. Now, I want to emphasize that I'm not the one doing all the amazing artwork, code or game design for this project. I am merely your humble storyteller. And this specific story starts out all the way back in the year of 2017. The newly founded company Lava Potion was having a workshop with our investor, Coffee Stain Studios, up in their hometown of Skövde. We were, among other things, trying to find the art style of our upcoming project, Songs of Conquest, and when someone found this amazing image, we were just blown away. This beautiful castle was created by a legendary pixel artist called Fool. It looks like something out of a fairy tale, and we all felt that this would be the art style we would go for. It was time to get to work. But to be honest, at that point in time, graphics wasn't really prioritized by the development team. We simply wanted to flesh out the game mechanics before we started to focus on the graphics. And this video shows the very first test of online combat, and I kind of think it emphasizes quite clearly that the art department of Lava Potion was non-existent at the time. In fact, we had 0 employees working with graphics. But eventually we found a guy called Emano who started to churn out concept art for our troops. And I'd say that the style was light-hearted and a bit whimsical. And we started out with focusing on the Arleon faction, a kind of traditional medieval knight faction with a bit of a Shakespearean twist to it. The concept art were then turned into pixel art, which we later animated. And of course we put those troops into the game engine. And after a while the combat was starting to look pretty good. We truly felt that we were on a path to something awesome. We had looked at a lot of old school pixel art games like Heroes of Might and Magic 2 and similar titles, which had a pretty colorful and cozy vibe to them. And we felt that we were continuing on with that tradition in a good way. Anyhow, as combat was starting to shape up, adventure was still something of a blank sheet, considering it still looked like this. And all of a sudden Emano, who created all the art, was accepted to a school of animation. And there we were, back to square one with no art director to lead our way forward. And an adventure map that looked like this. And yeah, we had to do something. So I rolled up my sleeves and I started to Google around for a pixel artist or, great, or perhaps even amazing pixel artist, because we would surely need it. And it turned out that there are a lot of pixel artists out there. Not all of them are amazing though, and most certainly not all of them live in Sweden. And even fewer one of those lives in Lava Potion's hometown of Gothenburg. So when I stumbled upon the name of Anders Gullmarsvik, I was a bit intrigued, because that name sounded just as Swedish as IKEA or Ombudsman. It really got my hopes up. I soon found out that there was actually only one person in Sweden hailing to that name, and that person happened to live just a few blocks away from me. So I invited him for a cup of coffee on my balcony, and as they say, the rest is history. There he was on my balcony, having coffee, looking for a job, and the sun was shining and the birds were chirping away in the treetops or something like that. So Anders got to work right away, starting with sketches for the adventure scene. First off was the biome for Arleon, and then he continued with Loth, the lands of the undead and my personal favorite. And of course Baria, the merchant nation of the desert. At the same time we were also working on a level editor, and yes, this is the first level ever created for Songs of Conquest. Makes you proud of your dev team, doesn't it? and we felt that we were onto something. The art style was quite cheerful, traditional looking pixel art. Nothing wrong with that, mind you. But then E3 of 2017 came along, and a game was shown that kind of blew me away and also had me slightly worried. When I saw the trailer of The Last Night, I was mesmerized. I watched it over and over again. I kind of felt that, man, we are obsolete even before we release. But that is pretty typical of game development. After a while you just get tired of your own designs and start to look at competitors, finding something new to swoon over each and every week. And about the same time we also looked at Wargroove from Chucklefish. They were both true to their pixel art medium and had a great visual style. So maybe we were doing the right thing after all. But some voices of concern were being raised. Have we started to stray too much from our original target? We always envisioned the world of Songs of Conquest as a quite hazardous and a bit grim, but that didn't really reflect at all in our art style. So let's pause for a minute and look back. I mean, this is one pretty amazing looking castle, but this is how our castle was looking. While there certainly wasn't anything wrong with it, it didn't exactly match the art that originally inspired us. Tension were growing inside the team and also with our investor, Coffee Stain. We all agreed that we had to do something drastic. So we scratched everything and went back to the drawing board in the search for a new visual identity. We already had done some experimenting with lights and dynamic visual effects in the world, like this example where we switched colors to emulate day and night cycles. And with effects like the dynamic lights shown here, we were trying to find a more modern look to the pixel art. But it became quite apparent that we needed a more drastic change. Adding a few effects simply wouldn't be enough, so our technical artist Patrick started to develop a whole new graphics pipeline, focusing on taking our 2D pixel art into a 3D environment. At the same time, Anders started to sketch away at the new visual target for the adventure map. And it was an iterative process really. Anders' own style was quite colorful and cute, but we wanted to try something a bit more darker. Something with more texture and grit. And after a while we had come a pretty long way, but could it actually work in 3D? During this sketch phase, Patrick had used our old assets to create a demo. It showed what the game could look like in 3D space, and when we saw the results, we were kind of cautiously optimistic. I mean, sure, we had a long way to go, but there was something to it that was different in a good way. Along with the new art sketches, we were actually getting some interesting results, like this new take on the Arleon fortress. The parallax and the 3D depth really made it pop. And in the end we produced a graphics prototype that we showed to Coffee Stain in order to get approval for pushing on with the whole art production. The following video has actually never been shown outside of our team, so I'll just stay quiet for a while and let you enjoy it. The feedback we got from Coffee Stain was great. We now had an art style that we all were really enthusiastic about. At the same time, we needed to give the same treatment to our combat scenes as we had given to the adventure. Placing goofy, light-hearted characters on a colorful battlefield wouldn't exactly match well with our new art direction. Fortunately, Anders had already started to ponder what a battle with more depth and 3D environments would look like. but we needed to tone down the colors and find a way to do it in our newly found 2.5D look. So we sketched away, aiming for a slightly more realistic look, creating mock-ups of how the new combat could look, along with some really detailed background pixel art. And when we combined it all, things were starting to get interesting. So let's jump back to where we began, with the troops and the combat, and compare to where we are right now. The characters have gotten a lot more texture and more dramatic contrasts. They are also more realistic in their proportions and overall slightly less, well, goofy in their appearance. And of course, that treatment has happened to the new combat grid as well. More realism, more grit, and slightly darker vibes. And to be honest, there's just so many cool things we can do right now. The visual tech that Patrick has created, along with the art direction from Anders, has really given us an edge. An ability to tell an even more mesmerizing story in a rich fantasy environment. The road was long and winding with many twists and turns, and we certainly didn't take the straightest road to our target. But that is kind of how game development works. I guess what truly matters is the result, and we are indeed very pleased with the results. And there you have it. This is how the art style of Songs of Conquest came to be. Thanks for watching this video. We are currently live on Steam, and if you like what you see, wishlist the game using the link in the description. Also, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a comment and let us know. Until next time, my friends, stay safe and have a good one.